Okay, so hello and welcome to the Designer Showcase. I am Rose Bolson, the current high school intern at Indiana Fashion Week. And today we're going to learn more about your story as designers, your experience at Indiana Fashion Week, and also what you've been doing since. So thank you so much for meeting with me. And if you would like to introduce yourself, that would be great.
I am WaZeil.
I'm WaZeil, and together we are the owners of our brand Stealth. It's kind of like a mother company, and then she has little babies underneath. In the clothing collection, WaZeil is one of the babies. It's actually more like a toddler now.
Amazing. So firstly, I just want to ask, how did the two of you meet, and ultimately, how did you decide to collaborate and express your ethical and artistic intentions through fashion?
So we met in 2014. We both attended the Art Institute of Indianapolis, and we had a mutual friend. So we didn't actually know each other when we were attending college. We met a little bit afterwards. So I personally have been sewing since I was like 10 or so. My mom taught me the basics, and then that's what I studied at the Art Institute. I was there for fashion design. So I've kind of always had a knack for the sewing and designing part. I kind of veered more towards art around the time that I'd met him in 2014. That was like my main focus. And then he's really what put the fire back under my ass. And then like he's been just as involved with the clothing and design part. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I started sewing around 12 or 13 years old. I took a class in school and just got the basics, just enough to kind of alter some clothing. And then I sat that aside. I didn't do anything with it for like almost a decade until we met. And that was kind of when it came back together. So I went to the Art Institute for Digital Photography, and throughout that process got interested in just like fashion photography in general. I had like Vogue coming to me all the time, things like that. So I've always just been a little bit interested in it. And then once we got together, it just sort of blossomed from there.
And when we first started the clothing collection, it was on a way different path than what it is now. It was more so just sourcing fabrics from like your basic fabric stores and then using like pre-bought patterns. It wasn't until we like really put our energy into it that we started like drafting our own patterns and like focusing on like fabrics that are specific to us. So all the designs are now like 100% ours, and like the dyes are 100% us. So like from start to finish, it's all us now.
Amazing. How long would you say did it take to really get to where you are now?
So we started in 2015. So from then onward, definitely our sustainability standpoint though, and shifting gears to natural dyeing, we did that back in 2019. So from that point on is when we've switched to completely all natural everything.
And that's also like when we really shifted our focus to like drafting our own patterns and like sketching our own designs and like making things that are totally ours. So it took about 4 years to get to that point.
Yeah. As I was researching, I just found it so interesting that you use all natural and earth-friendly tools to create all of your designs. And so have you found during this process that sustainable clothing is a growing desire for fashion consumers?
My hope is yes. I think there is a lot that's misunderstood about the industry, and the term sustainability is extremely vague at this point. I think people have an interest, and there's definitely a desire. I think there needs to be more education about what that means for individual consumers, though. And that's something that we're working on to help explain the process and like explain why it's important. But yeah, the industry is definitely growing, which is positive. It's needed.
Yeah, definitely. You said sustainable is vague now. How would Stealth define sustainable?
We actually just did a panel on this with Pattern Magazine and Stitchworks. So do you want to, I don't want to talk too much. Do you want to talk about it?
You're fine.
Okay. So I guess for us, it's making sure that like the generation now is provided for, but also future generations are provided for without harming the earth in the process. So like we want to make sure that like what we're doing with our collection is being thoughtful for like right now, but also, when we're gone or 20 years down the road. So what that means specifically to what we do is like making sure all of our fabrics are biodegradable, as well as the dyes, so that if it ends up at a landfill, there's no trace being left behind, or it's not like leaching anything into our precious earth. So that's the biggest thing for us with sustainability. Yeah.
Right.
And also, like, we did touch on this and just recently with the panel, and it's not just like about the earth for us, it's also about like the workers who are creating our textiles, who are growing the fibers for our textiles. So like human, ethics and like human rights in that sense is a huge part, and it's important to us as well.
Yeah. Awesome.
Okay.
So do you offer like guidance to any other designers on how they can design, produce, and sell ethically in the ways that you do?
We have not, but if we were asked, by all means, we're an open book.
Yeah, more so recently within the last couple of months, we've been sharing a lot more just like information and education. So we've always been transparent about where we source our fabrics from and our materials and our dyes. So if other brands need resources, we've always been transparent, so they could just either ask us or even just look on our website. And like it's important because I don't want to just hold these things just for myself. But also we've really taken a step to educate others, even just like why it's important to be using better fabrics, or like why it's important to be using plant-based fabrics or plant-based dyes. I hope that's getting through to both designers and consumers, but we haven't taken a step to like directly approach other designers or anything like that. So
definitely. What do you think your greatest strengths are as designers, and how do you work so well together?
It's a good question. We work well together because, first of all, everything we make is just something that we already want. So like, there's not really a conflict from a design standpoint because we already know what we like personally and what we want personally, and that's what ends up getting made. It's things that apply to our life and things that we would personally wear. So like, that comes naturally. Beyond clothes, like we are makers and creators in a lot of other ways, and so there's just a natural collaboration that's happened since day one. Yeah, that's the first part. What was the other part?
How do you work so well together?
Okay, and then what was the other part after that?
I asked what your greatest strengths are as designers.
Okay, what do you think? Okay. I think one of our greatest strengths as a designers would have to be like the uniqueness of the designs. Like I really think we have that on lock. We have like our what do you call it, like capsule collection of designs. So like things that will always be relevant, and they are timeless. They're also gender fluid. Like there's not like restriction in that sense. And I think that's really what strengthens us as a brand.
Yeah, absolutely. So segueing to Indiana Fashion Week, how did you hear about this? How did you decide that you wanted to do it?
So we actually had reached out just because we found out that it was coming up the last or prior year. And we originally didn't even plan on sending a collection down the runway. We just wanted to see if they were having any sort of panels to talk about sustainability and things like that. And when we reached out, then they got back to us and we're like, hey, we don't have any panels that we're doing, but you can send a whole collection down the runway if you want to. And within 6 weeks, we completely designed a whole collection, sewed it, dyed it, and had it ready.
Wow, that's really impressive.
That ended up being our platform to talk about what we do. So instead of like the opportunity to speak on a panel, it was more so like, here's what we're doing and why we're doing it.
Yeah. What was your favorite part, would you say, of Indiana Fashion Week?
Ooh.
I think definitely like seeing the concept come to life. We sat down together and we planned and designed all of our 8 looks together. Just like the construction, and then like used, our paint to color them in, and just like to see the collection on paper is vastly different than like the moment before they walk on the runway and see everything come to life. And really just like getting to work with the hair and makeup designers that we had. I think all of our visions meshed and flowed really flawlessly, and it was really satisfying. And just
That final moment was the most satisfying, just getting to see them as they were walking out to go down the runway. Just like, wow, we put that on paper and now it's in real life.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you said that the hair and makeup process was really cool. Did you also like design hair and makeup looks to go with their like designs that they were wearing?
Absolutely. Yeah, there was a vision from the start. It was Shelley Duvall, like in her younger years. So that's really what inspired most of the hair and makeup. And a big part of the collection for us. So this is probably backwards from what a lot of designers do, but we didn't actually start designing the collection until we had our models. So a lot of the things were tailored specifically to the model, which is honestly backwards from what a lot of designers do. Like a lot of designers just have a vision of clothes and then they just, pick the models to fit. So we actually did it backwards. And I think it was actually really neat because our whole thing is just like human interaction and just like clothes that complement human beings. And so being able to do it backwards, it was really neat to see it come to life. And the hair and makeup was definitely tailored to that as well.
Yeah, that's really interesting to hear. And why do you think Indiana Fashion Week is so important for the community?
I feel like it's a great platform to showcase artists that normally wouldn't be seen because we're in Indiana. And so it's really great to bring fashion to Indiana instead of having to aim for New York or any of these other big places. It's showing that it's also happening right here, right now in our own state.
Yeah, actually. There's a lot of amazing talent in our state, and at least for us, just the opportunities that came with it, and like the news coverage we received, and like just the people we met have all just, it's all come full circle and really like put us in a really nice direction.
Yeah, definitely. I know I've always wanted to work in the fashion industry, and I was like, I have to get out of Indiana first before I can do that. But like Indiana Fashion Foundation and all of this has really made me realize that like you can work in the fashion industry anywhere. You don't have to be in the big capitals. So yeah, it was definitely really inspiring. And so some more just like fun questions. Currently, what are your favorite trends in fashion, past and present?
Trends? I don't know, because we don't actually follow the trends.
Yeah, like we probably pay attention the least out of most fashion designers as to what's happening. We just sit down and whatever comes out for our next season. Like we're not trying to plan based on what others are doing necessarily, because we are trying to create timeless pieces that are forever.
I think I don't know if I necessarily call this a trend, but like a lot of the styles in our vision is kind of aligned to like clothes that you would find in like the late 60s, early 70s. Clothes are like a little bit more loose and like less restrictive, and like they allow for play, but they can also be paired with pieces to be dressed up. So like that's definitely a common theme for our work. But as far as like I'm designing based on like current pant trends or like current shirt styles, like we aren't doing that.
Yeah. Definitely. So, do you have any like brands or designers then that inspired you at all or are inspiring you?
It's just something that we honestly don't like. We're just kind of shut off from it, to be honest. Like, There isn't, I really like on the top of my head, there is not like a single designer, which it may come off as like conceited or uneducated or anything, but like it's just not something that's at the forefront of our minds, to be honest.
Definitely.
Just for you.
No.
Yeah, I agree.
I love that. And so besides your website, how can people find your designs and support you?
So we also have things listed on our Etsy. Besides like website and Etsy, everything we do is in person. That's our primary focus. So we do a lot of pop-ups throughout the years. I said earlier in the interview, like fashion is just one thing that we focus on. He's a touring musician, so about a quarter of the year or a third of the year, we take all of our work and we travel with it. And so that's the biggest way that we share our work with people. And I think just because the colors that we use, like the dyes and the textiles, they just translate a lot better in person. So we have a part of our website where it's like, where can you find us next? And like, just to connect in person is the best way to find us.
Yeah, definitely. And I was researching and you just had your Van American tour. Is that correct? How was that? How was that experience? Was this your first one or have you done multiple of them? How was that?
We've been on the road multiple times up until 2020 happened. And then we had taken a break up until last fall. So the Van America tour was our longest tour we've ever done. Usually we go out for about a month and a half, but this one was 3 months. So it went from just kind of almost like by the end of a month and a half, you're starting to get into the swing of being on the road kind of, but 3 months, you just become part of the road. You're just living and breathing every day with constant movement.
It was a really amazing experience though. This was because it was so long. It was the first time we really like submerged ourselves into different areas of the United States. So we did a lot of pop-ups around the United States in cities that we haven't previously done pop-ups. Yeah. Also just like the shows, like the music part of the shows, we did a lot more than usual. And it honestly just introduced us to a way broader audience. And that's really neat.
Yeah, well, that is amazing. And so before we close, is there anything that you guys want to share with us?
Well, I will say our most recent project kind of stems from the natural dyes. So a lot of the times when we're dyeing fabric, there is dye left over in the pots. And so like one of our focuses is just zero waste. And so we don't want to waste the dye in the pot. So we've been transforming them into paint and ink that artists or illustrators can use as like a creative tool. And that's like our most recent project. I've been doing it personally for about 2 years, and it's been like my own project for my own art. But we're at the point now where like we've opened it up to the public, and now it's like a product you can find and purchase on our website. And it's been really neat. It's been fun to do it. So yeah, that's awesome. Our new thing.
I love that. So thank you guys so much for your time today. Indiana Fashion Foundation always just strives to amplify voices and share designer stories and businesses. So thank you so much for letting us do that today. And we just can't wait to see what Stealth has in store for the future.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let me hit record. Amazing.